This particular pick, in a similar way to the Panos Esperante, and a couple of others, is probably one which a lot of people would think, wait, what on earth is this doing so high on the list? Why would this be so high on anyone's list? And not only is it on the list, it's really high on the list. Now, there are two trucks/SUVs that I really love. The other one is not going to feature on the list, and that's the Audi Q7 V12 TDI. For whatever reason, I just really like that SUV. I'm not usually a fan of Audi or the Q7, but I love the fact that it's got that crazy diesel engine, pretty good performance, although it can be beaten by quite a few other SUVs. To me, it's a gimmick, but it's a cool gimmick. This one, though, I love this one enough to put it here, and to me, this is without question my favourite truck. Now, I'm not a huge truck enthusiast, but at the same time, there are plenty of trucks which I do like. The F-150 and the Dodge Ram in particular, I am a big fan of, as I pretty much always have been, actually. Chevy Silverados, not as much. But this one, and the reason why this one is so high, is interesting for me, because this is a car which I only started to love for maybe the past 2 or 3 years. But when I actually thought about it, the seeds for my love for this truck have actually been, in effect, lying dormant for about the past decade, when I was first introduced to this car fully on Forza 4, because of course it was featured before that in Forza 3, but I never really used it much. It wasn't until Forza 4, in a similar way to the Cadillac LMP and the Panos LMP, funnily enough, that I really noticed this car, or this truck. Now, Ford as a brand is not a brand that I'm a huge fan of. There have been, as far as I can recall, no Fords on this list whatsoever. However, there have been a lot of Ford parts. The Panos, for instance, has a Ford engine. The Saleen has a Ford engine. And this one, once again, is even more directly so than any of the others, a Ford. It's literally a Ford underneath. The Ford F-150. Now, it helps that I love the look of this truck anyway, but to me, the fact that this is the Saleen version, the S331 Supercab, it makes it what I would genuinely call an exotic truck. And that's something which, if you think about it, you cannot say that often. There are not many exotic trucks, but Saleen is such a high caliber of tuning company and also exotic car company that you could legitimately call this an exotic truck. It's got a big engine, a lot of power, a lot of torque. The performance is not earth-shattering, but it certainly isn't slow. It's exclusive, and it's got the Saleen brand and Saleen tech behind it. Saleen's expertise. And to me that counts for a lot, because Saleen is just one of those tuning houses which they go way beyond just slapping a big supercharger or a turbo onto something and, you know, putting a badge on the side or a sticker. It's much more than that. When Saleen decides to build a car, it's a special occasion. Now, some of their models I'm not a fan of. I don't like the Saleen Tesla. I think it looks hideous. I don't like the Saleen S5S Raptor concept, which I know a lot of people do love. I don't like Saleen's new supercar either. But there are plenty of Saleens which I do love. And the three in particular are the S7, which is an incredible supercar that of course did feature on this list. The Saleen SR Mustang, which isn't one of my favourites, but it's a very cool car for sure. Almost like a Mustang GT1 car. And this one. But this is the number one Saleen for me, and this is the car that I referred to as being, in effect, the car that I would choose over the Cadillac Buretts. In that episode, I referenced a car which is a similar price bracket, or at least can be, but that I would choose over the Cadillac. And it's this one. I would choose the Saleen S331 as my number one real-world dream car. And what I mean by that is that all of us have absolute dream cars, but then we have, if you think about it, real-world dream cars, or dream vehicles. And of course, with ultimate dream cars, you're talking cost no worry, whatever you want, drive a formula car on the road, all that kind of imaginary stuff. My real-world dream car, though, is a different thing. What I mean by that is something which is actually attainable. Something which might be expensive to some degree, but that you could actually attain without having to win the lottery, for instance. And this is one of those. Likewise with the Lincoln Continental, or a Ducati 748, or even something like a Bimota YB6. They are attainable dream vehicles, with a price tag of say up to, say, $30,000, maybe less. So certainly not cheap, but attainable. A lot more attainable than a Zonda F, or a Rimac, or various other cars on this list. A Daytona Cobra, or something like that. Now this one for me definitely takes the cake, because again it combines everything that I love about a daily driver. Because when I say dream car, that is what I mean. This is my dream daily driver for an affordable price. It's got 450 horsepower. If I recall, I think it's got... Actually, no, I don't think... Yes, it does. 450 horsepower. I think it's 500 pound-feet of torque, if I recall correctly. Rear-wheel drive, which is interesting. Makes it a pretty cool drift truck. And it's practical, because it's a truck. I don't care about off-roading at all when it comes to my trucks. I like trucks on the road. I tend to like the trucks which have more of a low-rider kind of style, and this one definitely has that to some degree, although I wouldn't lower it. Certainly not. I'd leave it completely stock to what Saleen did to it, because why change what the masters have already done? It's a car which, or a truck, which doesn't strike fear into today's sport trucks or sport SUVs, because performance advances so quickly, and we've gone so far since then, that there are plenty which can easily outrun this. But as with many of my picks, it's about a lot more than that. It's not about whether or not it's still the best, or even if it ever was. It's just a truck that I love everything about. To me, there are very few trucks which you could genuinely say are good looking. In an abstract way you can, they're big, they're muscular, they're blokey blokes kind of cars, but that's not enough for me. You'll notice probably that there are very few muscle cars in my top 50, despite the fact that I love them, because although they look fantastic, they're not necessarily pretty. They're certainly not beautiful. They're cool, and that's an entirely different thing. And for me, most trucks fall into that category. They look cool, but they're not beautiful cars. Some people, I'm sure, disagree, and to me you can make a beautiful truck, and I think this is one of them. I think that the Saleen S331 is a fantastic looking truck from every angle. If I could own one, of course it would be yellow. What else are you going to go for a Saleen? It's pretty much their leading colour. I love this truck. It definitely deserves to be here, and, to be honest, I considered putting it even higher. I even considered putting this in third place. Ultimately, I thought that was a bit extreme, but it's my ultimate real-world dream car. That counts for a lot, and it's certainly more than enough to put it this high on the list. But that's it overall for this pick, and I have to say also, just in closing, that this, as I said, is my dream daily driver, and I would put the Panoz Esperante, the sports car that I put in 11th place, as my real-world dream sports car. And those two together, perhaps with, say, a motorbike, for instance, like the Ducati 748, would be my real-world dream garage, with prices of like $30,000 or less, so they are relatively attainable in the long run, but still cars that are so cool to own. My ultimate dream garage, well, that's a completely different thing, of course, and most of those, actually, are still to come. In fact, the top 3 cars are all my ultimate dream garage. Cost no option. But, as I said, that's it for this pick. Of course, you can click through at the end to see all of the previous episodes. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.